It's Daryl here. It's Friday. It's 4 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. I'm going to talk about a few things. This is kind of an unrehearsed video, and I'm going to do it off the cuff. So here we go. Okay, so Biden is looking like the strongest person out there right now that can take out Donald Trump. I was leaning towards Bernie Sanders myself. I'm looking for hardcore, real change. That's not looking. Biden's going to be the person that can beat Trump. So, the interesting thing here is Ocasio-Cortez. There's talk of her being the Biden's vice president, and that excites me greatly. It's almost like an alternative to Bernie Sanders. She's got a lot of similar ideas, and I would be psyched if she was the vice. She decided to. At this point, it sounds very iffy. Ocasio-Cortez hasn't been all that flattering to Biden, and vice versa. But that's okay. It's probably a good thing to have a president and vice president that have differing ideas to call each other on it. I think that would probably be a good idea. But I'm excited about this. Okay, this brings me into my next subject, talking about universal income and universal health care. Okay, I'm going to reference Star Trek. I'm gonna go full geek on you guys. For those of you out there that have watched Star Trek, the situation in the Star Trek universe is that there is no money. It goes beyond universal income, where people just do their job and better themselves and work as a cohesive unit to better society. They each have their job. It's a look at a possible utopian future, I guess would be the way to describe it. It's a great idea. It's an interesting idea moving towards that. What makes me think that it's possible? I made a video before where I'm still amazed by this $2 trillion stimulus. I wrote down the number 2 trillion, and I'd recommend for you guys to write it down too. I know we all know what 2 trillion looks like and what it's, but when you write it down and you see the 12 zeros, it is an unbelievably huge number. This is what I'm still confused, amazed, a little frightened that our country could just pull $2 trillion out of its ass. And where does this come from? How can this be possible? And there's still talk of more stimulus checks. I heard talk of 500 billion for small businesses, and more stimulus. In the fact that it would appear that our government can somehow, I'm still confused as to how this is possible, can just pull this money out of their ass. It makes it evident that people don't need to suffer in this country as much as they are. There really is a intentional difference between the extremely wealthy, that ever widening gap between the ultra rich, the ultra wealthy, and the slave class is basically what we're becoming. And the fact that our government can just pull this money out of nowhere and pay off the entire country makes me think more that universal health care and universal income is more than possible. The people that are against those things, the conservatives, always see. This goes back to my video yesterday too. This video right now will touch on several of my past videos. Trump supporters, conservatives have a very negative outlook on people, and on human nature. They think a lot of Trump supporters will say, like when they're confronted with the fact that Trump lies and all this other stuff, they'll say, "Oh, all presidents lie, all politicians lie, all people lie, all people are bad." But at least he's working for us. At least he's doing something for the economy. Um, they've got a very negative outlook on people, on life, on everything. And I know we can all hit that. We can all get to that point where we're frustrated. But I don't believe that. I don't. I believe people are generally good. Um, I believe there's ultimate good and ultimate evil, but I believe people are genuinely good. I don't believe, and I don't believe that people are naturally lazy. That's where I was going with this. A lot of the arguments from conservatives and Trump supporters are that people would just be lazy. They just sit on their asses and get stoned all day and watch TV. And granted, I think there's a lot of people that would picture that as a great, would fantasize about it. But like I said in another video too, when I did have time on my hands, when I was getting into recovery and I was on disability, it's not. It's a very depressing way of life. And I think most people will see that. And if you start involving yourself with drugs or alcohol, it just makes it even worse. A lot of people fantasize of this great life of sitting on an island and smoking weed all day and having sex or whatever. And you got to remember that fantasies a lot of times are a lot better just left being fantasies. Anyway, getting back to the point, I don't believe that people are naturally lazy. I think a universal income would work. Now, getting back to Star Trek, in a situation like this, where it would give people more free time to better themselves and better society. If you look today, even with my family, the family of my friends, a lot of people are just working so ridiculously hard that they don't even have time to do their own dishes, to talk to their own kids, to do the basic stuff. They're running themselves ragged, just trying to make a living, just trying to eke by. In a situation where there was universal income, I believe people would just have more time instead of slaving away to enrich that 1% of the wealthy population. They'd have more free time to spend working on their family, to spend educating their kids, so their kids don't start leaning towards drugs and gangs and guns. I think we can all agree that in America today, if families had more time to spend with their kids, to spend bettering their family, spending time with their family and bettering themselves. Like I said in another video, I'm not married. I don't have any kids. I spent the time, I started getting up at 3 a.m. Like I said, I could have slept all day, but it's nice for a day or two, but it's unrewarding. Life without goals is useless, is depressing, and eventually you start leaning towards suicide. There's no point to it. And these are my arguments for why universal income would work. There's always going to be people that, and I think it's more due to mental conditions where it doesn't kick in and they get depressed and don't work. But I think in general, people are motivated. People need and want goals to better themselves, to better their family, to better their condition, their situation. This is why I believe that universal income would work. I don't believe that the majority of people would just sit around being lazy and waiting for their check in the mail. There's no point to that life. There's no point to that. What I started doing, like I've told you guys in the other video, if you go back, I started getting up at 3 a.m. I was almost 300 pounds. Like I said, I had just gotten into recovery, quit drugs, and I needed goals. I needed to better myself. And that's what I did. I started getting up early and working out. I went out and bought art supplies. This resulted in me being in fantastic shape, losing 100 pounds, 98 pounds, and keeping it off for 13 years, and starting my own art business, my own art sales, which is doing fantastic. And those things right there are what have kept me in recovery, benefiting my life. And I'm sure it's not just me. I'm not the exception here. I think most people are like me. So more time with like a universal income would create a smarter, a tighter knit family group, which I think is would be one of the biggest benefits is people being able to spend more time with their kids. I think that would make a huge difference in drugs and crime and in marriages even. I think it would benefit society in ways we don't even imagine yet. When people work this hard, they don't have time for the important things. Making that scratching by becomes just existing, becomes the sole drive, and the family suffers. The marriages suffer. I think it would make society better. So anyway, that takes me back to Ocasio-Cortez being a running mate with Joe Biden. That would be that would really excite me. I hope that comes to fruition. I hope they do team up. Like I say, Ocasio-Cortez. It's still we're still a long way from universal income. Maybe not as far from universal health care, but it's a step in the right direction. To me, right now, Donald Trump, it's the exact opposite. And I can't believe it. I'm amazed that Trump supporters fall for this, that they worship and believe every word out of this man's mouth. And they're basically slaves to him and his 1% class of people. They're just existing to make that one class of people more wealthy. It's the doomed system of capitalism. I truly believe that. All right, I know I wandered around a little bit. I hope you guys stuck with me and got the basic idea. All right, you guys have a good Friday. I'll talk to you later.